All right, let's dive into one of the most powerful and, honestly, one of the weirdest forces in politics, gerrymandering. And to really get how it can practically decide an election before it even happens, we need to start with a salamander.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. What on earth could this little amphibian possibly have to do with your vote? Well, the answer is actually way more direct than you'd think, and it takes us all the way back over 200 years.
So our story really kicks off with this perfect storm of political ambition, a map that was drawn in a very strange way, and a cartoonist who was ready to pounce. Put them all together, and you get a term that still defines American politics today. Okay, so picture this. It's 1812. Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry signs off on this new map of Senate districts, and it's designed for one reason and one reason only, to help his party win. A local newspaper took one look at it, saw a district that snaked across the map just like a salamander, and boom, they mashed up Gerry and salamander, and the gerrymander was born. The name totally stuck, but the tools, oh, they've evolved. We've gone from ink and paper to super powerful computer algorithms and massive data sets, making the whole practice way more precise and, frankly, way more effective than ever.
So, apart from the weird name, what is gerrymandering really? Let's push the history aside for a second and just get right to the core of what we're talking about.
To put it as simply as possible, it's the process of politicians choosing their voters, instead of the other way around. The whole point isn't to draw districts that make sense for a community or, a geographic area. Nope. It's all about engineering a political win before a single vote has even been cast.
So how in the world did the map drawers actually pull this off? Well, it's definitely not guesswork. It's a very calculated strategy, and it uses a few key, very powerful tools. So let's open up a toolbox.
The first major tool is called packing. Here's the goal. You cram as many of your opponent's voters as you can into the fewest possible districts. Now sure, they'll win those districts in an absolute landslide. We're talking 80, 90% of the vote. But by forcing them to waste all those extra votes in just a few districts, you've basically erased their influence everywhere else on the map.
And the other side of that coin is cracking. With this one, you find a big group of your opponent's voters and you slice it up into a bunch of little pieces, spreading them thinly across a lot of different districts. When you do that, you make sure they're always a minority pretty much everywhere, completely diluting their power so they can never get a majority anywhere.
Just think of them as two parts of the exact same strategy. With packing, you're sacrificing a few districts to your opponent, letting them win big. But with cracking, you're making sure you win a whole bunch of districts by safe, comfortable margins. You use both together to grab the maximum number of seats with the fewest possible votes overall.
And let's be absolutely clear about this. This is not a strategy that belongs to just one party. These are tools of power. And as you can see here, whichever party is in control of drawing the maps has a huge incentive to use these exact same techniques to lock in their advantage for years to come. And believe it or not, the toolkit can get even more aggressive. With hijacking, you redraw the lines specifically to force two of your opponent's politicians into the same district, meaning they have to run against each other. It's a guaranteed way to get rid of one of them. Or there's kidnapping, where you literally draw a new line right around an incumbent's house, moving them into a totally new and unfriendly district where they have almost no shot of winning.
Okay, so we've got the history, the definition, the whole playbook. But this isn't just some political chess match. This has deep, real-world consequences for our elections and for the actual value of your vote. This is the part that really matters.
So the fallout from all this is huge. Gerrymandering creates these ultra-safe seats, which basically kills political competition. And when a politician knows they can't realistically be voted out, they have zero reason to listen to anyone in the middle, which just fuels more and more polarization. Entire groups of people can find their votes packed away or cracked into nothing, and the final result? You can end up with a state government that looks nothing at all like the actual political makeup of the people it's supposed to represent.
You know, when you strip away all the political strategy and the bizarre history with the salamander, this whole issue really just boils down to one simple, fundamental question. A question of fairness.
It really leaves us with this fundamental challenge. If the very people drawing the maps can effectively decide who wins an election before it even starts, how can we ever be sure that the government we get is what the people actually voted for? That is the question at the very heart of all of this.